Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
So, good morning. So today we are preparing for the test that's going to be posted on Thursday. I'm not sure what time it'll go live on Thursday, but it will go live on Thursday, and then it'll be up until Sunday at midnight, just like test one. There are extra credit points that are built into the section of the test, so it's worth 100 points, but there's about 5 points extra credit built in. And the three chapters that you need to make sure that you've looked over the PowerPoints or watched the video lectures are chapters 4, 5, and 6, which is the listening chapter, the verbal communication chapter, and the nonverbal communication chapter. And so that should be your only focus for this week, is kind of making sure that you have that stuff kind of organized and ready. It'll be just like the first test, where if you are in the test and you need to take a break, you can do that and come back to it. But if you answer a question, then you can't go back and re-answer the question. So you just want to make sure you have dedicated time to get started on it, and then make sure that you complete it by midnight on Sunday night. Any questions about any of that? Nope.
The only question I had about was the interview. It seems that it's not on my I guess in my Canvas. Maybe you took it down, or yeah, because I'm trying to see if I can make some questions for it, and I can't seem to find it.
The interview, I don't know what
Uh,
you're asking about, because the interview assignment is over.
oh, is it?
Yeah. You already did that.
The one about the two couples, or is that for a different class?
Oh, the relational interview. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yes. So the relational interview, I will be sending out our next announcement, which will come out on Sunday. I'm going to
Mhm.
send out samples and questions, as well as tell you kind of you need to be reading these lectures before you actually write your paper, because it'll give you more things to kind of focus on in your paper.
Mhm.
But let me look really quick. Good question. Let me see really quickly. Hold on. I gotta pull it up. So if I look at the announcements and let's see. Let me see if this has it. Nope. Hold on one second. I want to see if I've sent the sample yet. And if it's not in that, then it'll be coming. Let's see. Yeah. So if you look at the Zoom meetup chapter 4 listening, that's in the announcements. It has sample questions. It even has some sample papers that other students have written, and
Okay.
a video that a student submitted. So it's listed in your announcements as, I'm going to put it in the chat room just so you can see it. It's listed in announcement as that Zoom meetup chapter 4 listening.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I will resend that with a couple of other things to note
Mhm.
next week, because it's not due for a couple of weeks, but I know you want to be working on it. So I'm just kind of sending this stuff early to kind of look at ideas for preparing for it. But I wouldn't actually put the paper together until after we do our lecture that happens after next week's movie test. So we'll
Mhm.
have this test, then next week we'll have the movie test. And then the following week is when we'll do the first lecture that kind of addresses the coming apart of relationships and the coming together of relationships. And that's stuff you'll use in your relational interview.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. Okay, cool. So let's really quickly, let's go to, I'm going to pull up the quiz right now. And I'm going to do just a basic review. I'm reading right from the test. So just kind of saying, these are the things that you need to be looking at. So in the listening chapter, you want to make sure that you know the difference between hearing and listening. That's very, very important to make sure that you understand that distinction. The other thing that you definitely want to make sure that you know is the steps to being a mindful listener. There were 6 steps that we talked about, the steps that you would take to be a mindful listener, and you want to make sure that you understand those. You also want to know kind of what are barriers to listening. So, for example, a person that monopolizes in a conversation or takes over the conversation, that would be monopolizing. And you need to know that barrier in reference to verbal communication and how that can be problematic with listening. And one of the essay questions that I talked about during that lecture was that. If you look at the essay questions, it'll say list one problem or barrier to listening, and then give one tip to be a better listener. So for if I said that one barrier to listening was judgment or evaluation, which is the most common form of problems when we listen, is we're evaluating the other person while they're speaking and not really listening. Then it would say, don't prejudge, would might be the advice, listen fully to the person before you judge the message or the person. That would be the tip to be a better listener. So one of the essay questions for that listening chapter is to list 3 barriers and then 3 tips to deal with those barriers. That's the major things that you need to know for chapter 4 in reference to listening. For the verbal communication chapter, it's just making sure that you understand. We talked about I language. We talked about language and responsibility. So, how to put blame on you, I, but, questions, all those things were talked about in the lecture. So just making sure that you understand that. What is I language and how can you misdirect responsibility and not take responsibility yourself by blaming other people? You never do anything, or it makes me so mad when you do that. Those are different ways of not taking responsibility with my own language and trying to, blame someone else. And then the other tips for positive language usage were, making sure that you ask questions, making sure that you don't monopolize in your conversation. You try to listen. Remember, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and trying to make sure that you're fully listening. So just making sure that you know those different positive language usage tips, and then also what is I language and how to use it. And then for the nonverbal chapter, the biggest thing for this chapter is just making sure that you know what nonverbal communication is. It is not anything connected to language, so it can't be defined. You also need to make sure that you understand the different types of nonverbal communication. There was about 20. So, what is haptics, which is the study of touch? What does touch mean when we're communicating? Are the face and eyes are the most complicated, nonverbal that we send. So knowing the different details about those different types of nonverbal communication will be very important. And then the last thing for that chapter is the guidelines for using nonverbal communication. So making sure that we're careful when we're defining what we're seeing or interpreting, and making sure also that if we define something as you rolled your eyes at me, checking in and being cautious, not just defining it as something and not making sure by perception checking that what we're actually seeing is actually what it is. Trying not to personalize everything. Okay, so those are the things that I would really focus on in the studying. I'm going to post this so you can kind of, watch it again if you need to. I'll also post the links when I post this to the different chapters in the lectures. So just make sure that you're looking for that email later on tonight. And then just preparing on Wednesday for when the test is launched on Thursday. Okay. Anybody have any questions? I feel like this test is kind of easier because a lot of it's just kind of definitional type things. It's not so much listening. It's like, you know what it is because you got the lecture notes there.
And you got them right here.
Exactly. Best way to go to college.
For real.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I will post this, and I will make sure that I am next week posting the relational interview stuff. It'll
Okay.
come out by the end of the week.
All right. Sounds
Okay,
good.
cool. All right. Have a good day.
Mhm. Thank you, you too.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.